You're recognized. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here today. I've got a similar question that Senator Sullivan had, and let me start with Ms. Mallory on the permitting action plan released by the White House last year. So it identified several types of projects where the administration would assemble teams of experts to identify ways to facilitate siting, permitting, and environmental review projects. And the list of these projects included things like renewable energy and broadband, critical minerals, transportation projects. But it didn't include water infrastructure or water supply projects. And we've got this 20-year drought going on. So could you explain why the water infrastructure and water supply projects were left out?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Yes, I think what we were trying to do as we set up the action plan was to highlight those areas where we knew there was ongoing and very active actions, interagency actions of the most complex nature. And there were already some conversations occurring in order to take advantage of the fact that so many agencies were working on them. So those lined up with the funding priorities that had been set by Congress, and that they were areas where we knew that it would be helpful for us to step in. We did not intend for that list to be a exclusive list. I mean, the basic principles that are set out in the action plan and where we are kind of working with agencies around their NEPA and their permitting compliance in general go beyond those sectors. Those sectors are just places that stood out as needing particular attention. So
it was a coincidence that there was just no water supply or water infrastructure projects included?
I think the water projects, as I'm saying, is that there is a system in place, there is a familiarity with dealing with those, and so that just using the tools that we've identified for use for those specific sectors we think is working. If there is a situation in which it looks like we need the extra added benefit of a sector, I think that could be added in the future.
Okay. The $4 billion that we appropriated, through to be used by reclamation is going to be in response to a lot of, it's for drought and mitigation of the drought. So there will be a significant number of water supply and infrastructure projects. Can you talk a little bit about the specific actions that your office has taken and the administration has in collaboration with reclamation to ensure that as we start this process, the NEPA process, that we don't face significant delays? Is there anything that you can specifically point to?
Yeah, so this to me is another good example of where having the funding that is focused on staffing and resources from the IRA has been really important in allowing the agencies to position themselves around the compliance that's necessary. We have a separate, under the climate policy task force, a separate drought-focused interagency group, and that interagency group talks about the range of issues that come up with respect to those projects and how we can get ahead of any anticipated challenges, and that is working to assist us so that we're able to move forward on these projects quickly.
And Mr. Miller, anything more that you could share on actions that OMB and the administration's taking to support the deployment of more water infrastructure projects?
Senator, thank you, and thank you for the question and your leadership on this issue. As my colleague noted, staffing is an area that we've been particularly focused at the Department of Interior. But also more broadly, one of the things we've been trying to support is identifying the specific capabilities and capacity that are needed for permitting these projects to make sure they're moving forward, and working with the Office of Personnel Management to make sure that we have the HR strategic resources, the hiring authorities needed to onboard. The second area that we've been looking at is systems capacity. We've been using some expertise from our U.S. Digital Service to dig in on that question, how data is captured, how data is shared, the underlying IT systems for both performance measurement as well as capturing information necessary for both analysis and the permits.
And finally, if I could just have a few more seconds, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Harada, would a water supply project that's funded by reclamation using IRA funds be eligible for Fast 41 for that process?
Thank you so much for your question, Senator. As a Southern California native, the drought issue is absolutely central to our family's concerns. To answer your question, sir, fundamentally any project that is subject to NEPA and requires over a $200 million investment can and does qualify for Fast 41 coverage. Water infrastructure is indeed one of the covered sectors that is authorized for us within the Fast 41 statute. So the bottom line answer, sir, is yes.
And, we noticed that there were only 4 reclamation projects listed on the permitting dashboard that your office maintains, and none of them were Fast 41 covered projects yet. So why do you think so few water supply projects get listed on the dashboard?
Thanks for the question, Senator. One of the issues that we are trying to address is that because the agency only recently became permanent in 2021, many project sponsors candidly kind of turned off their attention, if you will. You're not going to be around here in 2 more years. My project's probably not going to get permitted in that time frame. But since we've become permanent, again, thanks to this committee's leadership, we have seen a renewed interest in the number and types of projects and a diversity of sectors. I attribute the lack of water infrastructure projects more to a lack of awareness about the FIPSI and Permitting Council and our authorities and our capabilities, and that is something that our team is very actively working on and would very much appreciate your support in getting the word out, sir.
Well, thank you. We'd like to see more of these water supply projects qualify for a Fast 41 permitting process. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, thank you. Thanks very much for